"Every suffering we accept is a step towards the truth," said Friedrich Nietzsche. But what if suffering were instead the very heart of our existence? In a world where every living being is struggling with pain and difficulty, there is a philosopher who dared to face this reality without filters. Peter Wessel Zapffe, one of the most radical thinkers of the 20th century. His thought invites us to face the absurdity of life, without shortcuts or illusions. In this video, we will explore his reflections. Zapffe was born in 1899 in Tromsø, a city in the north of Norway surrounded by breathtaking landscapes but characterized by a harsh climate and often difficult living conditions. His middle-class family offered him a solid education and a stimulating environment, although marked by the sobriety typical of Nordic culture. His father, a merchant, and his mother, passionate about literature and music, helped cultivate in him a curious and reflective mind. During his adolescence, he demonstrated a keen sensitivity to existential questions, combined with a keen observation of nature and social dynamics. He spent long hours immersed in the Norwegian landscapes, between mountains and fjords, developing a deep connection with the surrounding environment, but also a growing awareness of the fragility of the human condition. At the same time, he devoted himself to rigorous study, showing a precocious talent for writing and critical thinking. He grew up in a complex historical context, marked by 2 world wars and profound social and cultural transformations that shook Norway and the whole of Europe. This reality, made of contrast between the natural beauty of the territory and the context of instability and change, provided him with fertile ground to develop a critical and profound vision of human existence. If you like, you can support the channel by leaving a precious like, and if you haven't already done so, by subscribing to the channel. Many thanks to all our subscribers. In 1927, around the age of 28, after completing his law studies at the University of Oslo, he began a career as a lawyer. But already in those years, he began to devote himself intensely to philosophy and writing, which soon became his true field of expression. He was not a traditional thinker, and his reflections were outside the academic canons of the time. In his writings emerges a dark but extraordinarily lucid vision of the human condition. His philosophy is part of the furrow of pessimism, alongside figures such as Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche, with whom he shares the belief that suffering is an inevitable and central component of life. Norway, wars aside, was undergoing a process of modernization, balanced between tradition and innovation. Yet he seemed immune to the optimism of technological and social progress. On the contrary, his reflections focused on the most fundamental and universal questions. Why does life exist? What is the meaning of the pain that pervades every experience? His observation of nature, culture, and human interiority led him to elaborate a radical critique of the human condition, which he defined as a paradoxical biological exaggeration. He believed that humanity had developed too much awareness of what was necessary for living, turning it into an unbearable burden. Dostoevsky had already expressed a similar idea when he said that too much awareness is a disease, a thought that Zapffe took up, arguing that humans, in order to survive, must reduce this awareness through 4 fundamental strategies, which we will explore in more detail shortly. By nature reserved and away from the spotlight, Zapffe chose to express his thoughts through works that, because of their frankness, continue to make people uncomfortable even today. He did not seek to offer comfort, but to expose what he considered the truth about existence. His most famous essay, The Last Messiah, published in 1933, describes the human being as an evolutionary error, a deviation that has made men aware of their fragility in an indifferent universe. In addition to identifying and analyzing the 4 strategies with which humanity faces this condition, he also proposed an extreme solution as a way to eliminate suffering at its root. Now let's get to the heart of the 4 practices through which men try to attenuate existential anguish, although they never manage to eliminate it completely. The first is isolation. This is a mechanism by which the harshest and most uncomfortable truths are relegated to remote corners of the mind, trying not to face them directly. This practice allows us to avoid thoughts about pain, death, or the cruelty of the surrounding reality. It is a form of mental protection, a sort of wall that is built to avoid having to deal with the suffering of life. A common example is the way in which we avoid talking about serious illnesses or difficult topics with children, to protect them from the harshness of the world that awaits them. But this attitude is not limited to childhood. Even among adults, topics such as mortality or serious illnesses are often set aside. Isolation, therefore, is not just a refusal to speak, but a real refusal to think. It is that almost automatic choice to look away when faced with a truth that is too painful to accept. The second strategy is anchoring, that is, the attempt to give stability to one's life by holding on to something that seems solid and lasting. It could be family, religion, a community, or an ideal. They are those fixed points that help one not to feel lost in the face of the fragility of existence. With anchoring, one finds a purpose, a direction to follow. Being part of something bigger helps one feel safe and find order in the chaos. For Zapffe, it is a way to make life more bearable. Even if it cannot completely erase the uncertainties of life, anchoring manages to make the path more stable, at least for a while. It is a choice. Believing in greater values to feel part of something that seems eternal. The third strategy is distraction, a way to escape the weight of existence by filling the days with activities and pastimes. Whether it's watching a movie, immersing yourself in work, or spending time with friends, everything helps you not to stop too much to think about the complexity and fragility of life. Distraction works precisely because it keeps your mind busy. You prefer to focus on something light or pleasant instead of facing the most difficult questions. It's a simple and very common strategy which helps you not to feel the weight of reality too much, at least for a while. And then there is sublimation, which seeks to transform pain into something creative. It can be a work of art, a philosophical thought, or a new idea. It is a way of taking suffering and giving it a form that makes sense, making it something useful or even beautiful. Zapffe himself saw his writing as an example of sublimation. Through philosophy, he sought to confront and give meaning to the burden of existence. This strategy does not eliminate pain, but reworks it, transforming it into something that can inspire or help reflect. Although his philosophy may seem extreme or even disturbing, Zapffe never set himself up as a prophet of despair. His goal was not to demolish, but to push people to reflect, to face reality without illusions. According to him, these strategies are not definitive solutions. In fact, he argues that there is only one way to reduce human suffering, and this solution is anti-natalism. That is, the gradual cessation of reproduction. Not a radical or violent choice, but a slow and conscious process, which allows humanity to fade away without further pain. If you are not born, you do not suffer, Zapffe argued, and this implacable logic led him to propose his concept of the last Messiah. This figure is not a savior in the religious sense, but an individual who fully understands the absurdity of existence and decides to act for the good of humanity promoting an ethical and peaceful end to human life. Zapffel's thought, however radical and cynical, offers a unique lens to look at our existence. It questions certainties and invites us to reflect on what we take for granted. Like Schopenhauer, who claimed that life is a pendulum swinging between pain and boredom, Zapffe also proposes to confront the most uncomfortable truths, but with the aim of finding new perspectives. Peter Wessel Zapffe died on October 12, 1990, in his hometown of Tromsø. He died of natural causes at the age of 91, leaving behind a profound and controversial intellectual legacy. If every suffering brings with it a truth, what is the one you discovered today? Why do we continue to search for meaning in a world that seems to have none? That's all for today. Goodbye. See you soon.